this is Yogesh Chabria, and in life, you do many things, but many times the intent also matters. How do you do it really matters. It's not just doing the thing, it is the intent. I'll share a small story to help you understand this. So once there was a king long back in India, and this king was suffering from a lot of these pores. He had got these pores and spots on his skin, and it was hurting his skin a lot. So he went to the local doctor, who they called a Ved. And the doctor told him, there's a lot of heat within you. So what I want you to do is take some sandalwood paste and just apply it on these, and the pain will go away. And because sandalwood has a cooling property, even today, if you take sandalwood, it has cooling properties. It's not heaty. So he did that. But the moment he put that paste, his pores started burning even more. He started screaming out in pain, and he was saying, this is so terrible. And he went to the first thing, he called his helper, and he said, call this doctor. So he called the doctor. He says, doctor, this advice you gave me is terrible. I'll have to cut off your head. And the doctor said, no, call the person who sold the sandalwood. So they called the person who sold the sandalwood, and he said, no, I sold you fresh sandalwood. I went out. It was the best quality. You're the king. So he says, call the person who prepared this. And they called the helper, and he says, no, I followed every instruction the doctor said I followed. So the doctor asked him, tell me one thing. What were you thinking? What was your thought process when you were making this paste? And the doctor said, be honest. So the helper said, to be honest, when I was making the paste, I was very angry with the king, because the king speaks to me in abusive language. He never speaks nicely to me. He always abuses me. So I had a lot of anger and hate directed towards the king. And the doctor said, this is the reason, because when he was preparing that paste, all his anger, all his hate went into the paste, and when you applied it, you felt it. So it's a beautiful story. It's symbolic, and it also applies in real life. Let us say you're making tea. I love making tea. Let us say you're making tea, and you're making tea for your wife, for your parents, for your kids, for your loved ones. And now when you're making that tea, you make it with a lot of anger, and you're like, oh my God, I have to make tea for my family. It's such a terrible thing. I hate my family. I hate my wife. I hate my husband. I hate my kids. I hate my life. Now, when you make it with that thought process, the tea won't have the same flavor. It won't have the same energy. But on the other hand, if you make it with love, same ingredients, same everything, but when you make it with love, when you make it with devotion, the tea has a different flavor to it. And you would have realized sometimes you like to eat food made by your mother. Think about it. You might go to the best restaurants, the best hotels in the world, but you still enjoy your mother's food because your mother makes it with so much love, or your grandmother's food because they make it with so much love. And this applies to every area. Whatever you do, it's not just the task which you're doing, it's also the intent. If your intent is pure, if your intent is filled with love, the result is very different. So from this moment on, think about your intent. How are you doing things? And bring in an intent of love, bring in an intent of joy. Because when you give out love, when you give out joy, a lot more of it comes to you. Take care. Have a beautiful evening or a day, and I shall see you soon.